to make a rich, savory, short rib French onion soup. Wow, I'm salivating just saying the name of it. Is the executive chef of Boston's Du Havre restaurant, Adrienne Wright. Welcome, Adrienne. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So not only are you the executive chef of a very fancy pants French restaurant in Boston, but you were also competing on season 16 of Top Chef, which, by the way, I don't know if you all follow Top Chef, but I get stressed out watching for the chefs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're all very wonderful chefs, but at the same time, to be put under that kind of pressure must be incredibly intense.
Oh, it is. I think the whole first episode, I was just in shock, like about the whole surreal nature of like standing in front of Tom and Padma and just being, they're eating my food, you know. So it took a little while to get over that, but then the pressure never stops. I mean, you cook for amazing chefs, Eric Repair for our holiday episode. I mean, just amazing once-in-a-lifetime experiences that are so stressful and also irreplaceable.
Right. I mean, what a great experience. It's so much fun. Well, I really enjoy you on the show. So
thank you.
Thank you for all you do. You guys dig into this soup because I promise you,
You're like
it will be
waiting
the
to
best
enjoy.
French onion soup you will ever have in your life. So Ken, Orly, Shirley, Allie, sorry if I'm breaking your New Year's resolution of eating
Already.
This is worth the calories. So you already have, I should say we. No, I'm not an executive French chef. You've already braised your short ribs and you've taken them out and put them over here. So why short ribs as opposed to just beef stock?
So the short ribs are really going to add a richness of flavor to our broth that we wouldn't get if we were just using beef stock. So this is called a second step called like a fortify to our broth. So these are already seared, yes. And then we're going to start searing our mirepoix.
So
I'm hearing really good sounds from over here.
We can't function as normally.
Did you make this on Top Chef?
Oh, I did not.
You should.
Time constraints are always an issue on Top Chef, you know. So
right, and this takes 3 hours.
This is but it is the perfect entertaining dish because you can make and then chill. It's even better the next day. All the flavors just develop a little longer in your fridge, and then you just have to reheat and assemble. It's the perfect date night food, which is I hear what we're doing today.
What we're doing, date night tomorrow with Hallmark Channel. So this, the mirepoix that you're making, you put back in the same stock pot that you actually seared the beef in. Okay,
Absolutely.
so it's important to keep all that fat in there.
Yes, because you want that beef flavor. We're going to keep all the beef flavor in this pot for as long as possible.
Okay.
So we use short ribs. If it came with the bones on, we would keep the bones in. I mean, this is like a really home sweet home, really rich, satisfying dish.
Right, and the bones would be even better because then it's a bone broth.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
So we're just going to sear here. Add our thyme and bay leaf in.
And also, you're not chopping up your onions. You're just like big chunks.
Big chunks, because we're actually going to end up pulling out these vegetables from the broth, right?
So she's just building the flavor.
So that you're not picking out little tiny minuscule pieces of carrot. We're going to start with big pieces here. So we're going to add our beef.
Oh, back in, okay.
Back in.
And then some pork.
Absolutely.
There you
so
go.
A deglaze, using our classic French term, right?
Does it have the sweetness, the port?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So then how long do we deglaze for?
So deglaze is just to get any brown bits off the bottom of our pan.
Okay.
So we're done. We're going to add our low sodium beef stock to this pot.
Okay.
And, you know, this is one of the few recipes that I am very careful about my seasoning in the beginning.
Okay.
Because it's going to cook for so long that the flavors are really going to develop. A little reduction is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you really want to just be careful with your salt content at the beginning.
Got it.
You can always season just a little bit more at the end. So
how long are you going to let this simmer?
this will cook for about 2 to 3 hours until our short ribs are just fall apart, fork tender. And then we're going to take this, strain it, pick out all of our large chunk vegetables, and keep our broth and our meat to add to our caramelized
And I have to be honest with you, Adrienne, the vegetables, even if you've drained the broth, I would eat those vegetables.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They would be so delicious.
Right, they're almost like pot roast vegetables at that point,
so
right? Which
good.
is one of my favorite.
Do you have to keep adding liquid? Because 3 hours is a long time. Would you keep it covered, or how do you manage that?
I would keep it covered.
Okay.
Yes.
And just low and slow?
Just low and slow, just gentle simmer.
Okay.
Check that meat, you know, short ribs that we have or your braising meat, oxtails, just until it's that fork tender.
And then over at the same time, you are low and slow caramelizing some delicious onions as well. And this takes about an hour as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So this caramelized onions, of course, for French onion soup, so important.
Right.
But this is really where all the love comes through. So, you know, I put it on medium-low, stir every 10 to 15 minutes, you know, come back, and it'll stick a little bit to the bottom. You just scrape it in. All that's fine.
Olive oil?
You want... I use canola or grapeseed just because of the long cooking time.
Right.
So you just keep this working.
And any specific onion?
I start with just straight Spanish onions.
Really? Not sweet onions?
All the sweetness is really coming from this deep caramel flavor that we're building here. So you don't need to start with a sweet onion.
Because it sweetens itself.
Exactly, exactly. It's like all this flavor is going to build here.
Gosh, okay, so then after an hour of caramelizing the onions, you then add not one type of wine, you add some of that sherry that we just added into here, and then 2 other types of wine. Why 3 wines?
Absolutely.
That's
I
why
love
like
this
it.
so much.
All makes sense now.
So sherry would be the classic for French onion soup, but we're adding port and Madeira also because it's really just going to add a little more sweetness with our sweeter type wines, and it will just add layers of flavor, right? That's what we're doing all the way through this process, is just building on these layers of flavor.
Now, is this something where the wine, the alcohol would cook off or no?
Yes,
Oh, it's going to
absolutely.
cook off. So,
Absolutely.
Sorry about that.
Never mind.
So we're gonna add our wines here,
All right.
and then we'll add our reserved cooking liquid from our braising short ribs,
Oh my goodness.
and
Where the short ribs are just, they're...
our short rib meat, right? You can see how tender
And they're in
they
the
look.
perfect little size pieces, like for each bite.
Absolutely.
Like they're shredded across perfect that you can get like everything in each bite.
So then after we do this and this all comes together, we would then put it in our ramekins and we would build it with the Comté cheese and the baguette. Why the Comté cheese?
So Comté is the perfect melting cheese and really just strings beautifully out of these crocs. And one of my favorite memories of French onion soup is having my grandfather make it for us growing up. And really just as kids, the fun part was like seeing how big your cheese strings can get. I mean, you were all doing a much nicer job.
I've had a hard time TV eating this. It's,
And then we put it in the oven. For how long?
Yes. So in the oven under the broiler, my father's rule for a broiler is don't ever leave it unattended.
Yeah, agreed. I think everyone's rule for the broiler.
Yeah.
Unless you want your house to catch on fire.
So we're looking for just perfect, melted, delicious.
it is so good.
Now, could you, if you wanted to, could you make it with a mozzarella? I think this is why I'm making it wrong all the time.
You
okay.
really-
You just answered me. Okay, you're an executive chef of a French restaurant. I probably just offended you even asking.
You really want that sharp, aged,
Yeah.
tangy flavor that you'll get from a Comté.
I know.
One of my favorite parts is like picking it off the sides of the bowl and
when it's
eating it.
crunchy.
Absolutely.
All right, Adrienne.
It is so good, you guys. If you want this full recipe, which you do, go to hallmarkchannel.com and you can connect with Adrienne on her social media and follow her on this season of Top Chef. Isn't it good?
The best French onion soup I've ever had in my life. I mean that. Wow, Adrienne, this is amazing.
Thank